Unmute me. Jay, can you hear me? Okay. Our Zoom meeting unexpectedly crashed, and so I joined the meeting on my phone. Is there anything you might want to warn us about, or something I should be doing differently to make sure everybody can participate right now?
If you want to make me a co-host, then I'm able to watch as people come into the waiting room and add them. But I don't think there's any.
I would love that.
Okay.
What do I need to do to make that happen?
In the participants panel, you would select, I think you would click on me and say make co-host.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Yes. Did I do it correctly? I did it to Jay, not Frank, right?
Yes, you did it correctly.
Okay, yay, you never know. Okay, well, I think we're up and running, and I'm very happy to have you navigating. Thank you very much, Jay. Close that. Okay. And time is 5:37, so we're 7 minutes late. Okay. No, we're not. Okay. Okay, is it okay? Is everybody ready to start? A little bit late here. We're starting. I'm going to call to order the San Ynez Community Service District regular board meeting, Wednesday, April 21st, and it is 5:38 p.m. So I'm going to have Wendy. Wendy's helping a person right now. Let's see.
Director Van Pelt.
Here.
Director Beard.
Here.
Director Redford.
Here.
Director Jones.
Here.
Director Beard.
Here.
Very good. Thank you, Wendy. Okay, if we could stand, and I will ask Director Van Pelt to lead us in the flag salute.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, and if you're looking at the agenda, you will see we're starting out with comments. And is there anyone on the board, any directors who would like to speak to any meetings that they've attended or anything related to district business? So no.
I do want to apologize to the board officially for this special meeting. Calendar got mixed up, so I just want to make sure everyone knows it. We had you on me, so I apologize.
Apology accepted. Thank you very much.
Well, not so easy, not so fast.
Okay, well, we may have another director comment. Okay, then we shall go to public comment. Is there anyone either on a Zoom or in the room that would like to make a public comment that is not agendized item, just something that they would like to talk about?
You want to stand up and get close or? It's okay.
Let me see, can Director Redfern, can you hear Mr. Koval? I'm still not pronouncing it very well, am I? Koval? Okay, Koval is in the room and is going to make a public comment. Are you able to hear him, people who are observing the meeting?
If he speaks loudly.
Yeah, and you can either pull a chair up or however you're comfortable and speak loudly, and I think we'll be able to hear you.
Hi, my name is Fred Coble, and I have property in San Ynez. Even though the city of Stillwater recently rejected the request to look into the possibility of taking over the sewer system and the wastewater treatment plant, I want to encourage the board members to keep at it because they don't know what they're up against. This is a brand new city council and they have no real history as to how what it's going to take, especially to upgrade the wastewater treatment plant, somewhere between $15 and $20 million. Now, I talked to Matt Van der Linden, the public works director, engineer, and asked him, how many connections does the city of Solvang have? In round numbers, 2,100. I do not know what the CSD has in connections, but I can only guess that the combined customer bases would reduce the cost to everyone. Also, the city of Solvang is great in tourism. They have a fine chamber director. And they do it all right. But if you look at their history, since I was on the city council from 96 to 2000, they have stumbled along the way in the way of improving the wastewater treatment plant and also in how they have managed water. They really stumbled in 92 when they bought 3/4 of the 2,000 acre feet of the state water project. And it's had its ups and downs, but more downs than ups. We paid $76 a month just for the mortgage on the state water pipeline. So I can only encourage you folks to really just keep hammering away at Solvang. And I'm sure at some point in time, you guys will win and do what you know what to do best. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Do you hear?
Were you able to hear the comment, Director Redfern?
I can hear. Mhm.
Okay, and since it's a public comment, we will move on without any comment, except I would like to point out, thank you, the staff answered my question. We have 714 current hookups in our district. And I believe that we potentially would have over 1,100 if everyone in the district was hooked up. Okay, so just that information. Thank you very much. Okay, so now what I would like to do is move on to reports. And you will notice, those who are familiar with the agenda, we're going to try doing the reports at the front end because it might help us put context in other things on the agenda rather than doing reports at the end. So we'll try it. If we don't like it, we can go back. So we will start with our general manager, Mr. Acosta.
Good evening. Just a couple quick announcements. Rick, you're on the line. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Okay, so we have legal counsel on the line this evening. Legal counsel will make his legal counsel report. Say thank you to Wendy. Today is Administrative Professionals Day. So I want to take an opportunity to thank her for all her hard work that she does for the CSD, making my job easier and making sure the citizens get all their questions answered, and it's always readily available for them. So I want to take that quick opportunity to thank her. As Mr. Coble mentioned, on my report, I omitted this accidentally, but I did attend the City of Solvang Council meeting regarding the request for running their sewer systems. And on the agenda, they were retracting that request. Staff made this recommendation for council to retract the request and for the city manager to send a formal letter retracting that request to the CSD. They pointed out a few bullets of why we're incapable of running their system. One of them was that we didn't know how to run a fog program and that we weren't capable of running their systems. I stood on this meeting, Wendy was on this meeting, we spoke at 11:20 p.m. That's what time this meeting was running till. And at that time, I spoke on that issue stating the CSD does run its own fog program. We are familiar with the fog program. We have staff that are fully capable of running a collection system. Although we don't run a wastewater treatment plant, we do manage one here with the casino. So we are familiar with this wastewater treatment plant. Another bullet that they pointed out was the need for operators at a certain level. Grade 4 operators are needed to run that treatment plant. That was a good bullet because it is true. We are finding it's very hard to recruit adequate amount of operators at those levels. Now, if we're going to recruit at those levels, obviously they're going to be looking for compensation. So that would have to be something that we would have to discuss if we went that route. They also mentioned, and for some reason I wasn't sure why they threw our rate study into there. I think it was just a tactic to show them that we pay more than they do over there. But as I mentioned to the council at that time is, when we received this request, nowhere in that request did it say we were going to evaluate their rates or make any rate adjustments on their behalf. We make our rate adjustments based on our needs and ensuring that we remain financially sound here at the CSD, that we're capable of paying for cash for our projects, including the upgrades that are coming with the future city of solid wastewater treatment plant. So we're doing our rate increases based on keeping ourselves financially sound. And we do understand that they are gonna have to do a rate study here soon. Unsure of how much they're gonna have to increase, but probably gonna be more substantial than what our increases are. So I just wanted to point that out to the board, that we did attend that meeting, we made our concerns known, and we answered their questions. But they still request, directed their city manager to send a request to retract that running their wastewater system. At that time, when we receive that letter, I could bring that back to the board, we can agendize that for discussion, if that is something that we want to do as a district. So I will keep Director Jones informed on that, and the rest of the board, once I receive that letter, we can decide to bring that back as an item to agendize and discuss as a board.
Just very quickly, I think we would all like to continue the discussion, because if there's one thing I wouldn't want to see happen is have any kind of animosity, or that you can do this, or I want to work together. And I think everybody, including during our public comment, working together benefits the people in our valley. And so however that takes shape. So I do want to keep talking.
And I agree with that assessment. I think we should continually reevaluate our capabilities of providing professional services outside of our own CSD. We've done it for the city of Milton. We currently do it with the Chumash Casino as well. And who knows where else this district may provide those services in the future, but we can address that as well.
Thank you.
Next item I want to just point out is that we finalized the comparative rate charts, which I forwarded to all the board for review regarding the rates compared to all the other surrounding agencies. It made a small difference based off of the charts that were submitted through the Los Alamos. Was it Los Alamos who submitted that one? I can't remember. They submitted a chart equivalent to ours, but their numbers were just a little different than ours. So we reevaluated that, resubmitted the chart, and put that into the final rates that were reviewed.
Well,
Go ahead.
is there anything that you wanted to say about what changed?
Well, what changed was some of the other agencies' fees increased a bit based off of those numbers that were received through Los Alamos CSD through their study. Ours did not necessarily change, because ours reflected, well, in theirs, they included other fees that were included. Laguna Sanitation is the one who did it. They included other fees that weren't necessarily our fees that we charge the customer. So it did drop ours on their chart, but it kept ours the same as what we originally submitted on the original rate study.
But the comparison was apples to oranges in certain
Yes.
cases.
Yes, so we did that. We compared it exactly across the board the way it should.
Thank you.
The next thing I want to point out, is I have communicated with the water district next door regarding the Horizon Drive project to keep them abreast on what we're doing out there, maintain that open line of communication, because we are going to be crossing a lot of water lines. And based on my experience of working at the water district, those lines can be sensitive when you get around them for digging and trenching and all that. So we're going to make sure we maintain communication with them throughout the project. If there are any breaks in the lines or any damage caused by the contractor, we'll coordinate how they want that repaired. Sometimes districts want to make their own repairs and they don't want the contractor touching the stuff. Sometimes they'll allow the contractor to go ahead and make the repair to complete an efficient manner. So we'll maintain contact with them as well as all the other utilities. We have gas company out there, you have electric, cable, so make sure we maintain those lines of communication. We had a meeting with a representative from Team Solutions regarding an asset management program. I know this is something I mentioned when I first got here, compiling, putting together an asset management maintenance program that will help us improve maintenance record keeping and ensuring that we perform proper preventative and predictive maintenance. That way we're minimizing our corrective maintenance. So that's something that we're looking into. I got a quote from them. It's a little high. Not something that we're going to pursue at this time, but when I do move forward with this, I'll keep the board abreast on that. I'm obviously going to go out and get more quotes, because my interest and the district's interest is to make sure we get the best cost for whatever we implement. We don't just take the first cost and say, okay, we're going to go with that. We always want to try to negotiate, get the cost as low as possible to save money for the CSD as well.
Is this system, can I ask?
Yeah, yes.
Is this system scalable with, the future maybe services that professional services we're going to provide to other?
So what it does, it is scalable. So if we do take on more services and get larger, we won't reach that scale, because it is a couple thousand services. We take on the city of Sullivan, for example, then it could reach that plateau where we do have to increase the fee for this service. But based off of what we provide within our boundaries and our CSD, it would not increase. I can tell you the price tag was approximately $16,000 for this service. It was an initial startup cost of about $10,000 and $6,000 annually. I think that's a little steep for us to pay, and so we want to go get competitive quotes when we decide to take this on. And I'll keep the board abreast on when we take on that process and bring all those quotes back to the board for review and discussion.
Is the system more centric around the sewer, or is this system flexible enough to where you take on other latent powers in the future?
It can be broadened so that it can do many areas, utilities, parks and rec. So it's not just strictly for wastewater. Started communication with the district engineer on the Highway 246 mainline stabilization project that we discussed a while back. As soon as we get closer to getting the Horizon Drive project approved and getting going, then I'll start making contact with Caltrans, GMASH, and try to coordinate a meeting so we can see what's out there, who's willing to participate, who's not willing to participate, and set our tone as far as the lead if we have to get this completed. It is imperative for us to do our part to make sure our assets remain intact. And last thing on my list is sent out the district's March newsletter, and that was mailed out to all residents within the CSD. I think that was it. We didn't receive any feedback on the newsletter at this time. So that concludes my report. Do I have any questions from the board?
Oh, I was just going to really quickly comment. I got some feedback from a constituent and I found it very valuable. And so I know that people are reading it. My family read it and would have even if I wasn't on the board. But I would also like to say, and it's still new in this, I really like getting your report up front because it kind of gives a backdrop to what we're going to be talking about. And I am very happy with your performance.
Thank you.
It was informative, concise, good job. And I like the tone that you're setting in the community.
Appreciate that. And just real quick, I want to confirm, Mr. Redfern, that you hear us clearly?
Am I here?
Can you hear Jose all right this evening?
I can, it's a little better, but it's still not, it needs the volume up. I have my volume on full and it's still hard to hear.
This time my phone might be a little bit of the problem. I just maxed my volume.
Frank, we're gonna get you a miracle here, okay?
He's got
All
one.
right.
Okay, so go ahead, yes, sir.
You're talking maintenance program,
Yes.
16 grand, yeah, even 10. How about if we do something, have a mnemonic for that? I mean, maintenance is a static thing over time. In this specific month, we need to do this, this, and this. Is that something we need to go out and spend money on? I mean, can we do a mnemonic and have our street, Kenny
I'm good, CD. Can I call you
or
back?
one of the other guys be in charge of
It might be about an
assigning
hour, but
that and making sure that's done?
So currently, that is how the maintenance gets done. It's based off of a written sheet on what they need to accomplish, and they check it out on written sheets. This is just more to have computerized, have it in a digital environment, so that way it's saved. You can always utilize it in a quicker fashion instead of having to go find file A from 1999. You can pull it up on the computer. When you go to that asset, you can pull up all the digital records from the previous maintenance that was performed. Again, the price tag is very steep right now, and that's not something that we're gonna pursue. It would have to be a lower price tag, something that's cost beneficial for the district. So that's basically what it does, is it allows you to pull up the asset, pull up all the history right in front of you, and then utilize that for any troubleshooting, any record keeping.
Here's something for you. Could we not get somebody over at the high schools? Take our information or mnemonic and have them plumb it into the computer. I'd rather do that, it's gonna be much more cost effective. I don't think anybody's gonna pay more attention to detail than someone trying to build themselves up a little career. I'm just trying to, you save a couple grand here, a couple grand there. That's where it starts.
Yes, sir.
And to me, hearing that we're gonna pay somebody X thousands of dollars to do something that's been in the work for years and has been functionally successful. I just don't see personally a need to expend the time and the cost to do something as basic as routine maintenance. You know, I personally don't support doing that when we could do something much more cost effective. Even if we do need to go to the computer or don't need to go to the computer, I don't, if everything is done as it should be on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, whatever the specific task this dictates, I don't find that that would be a problem to access it. I don't see it as being an emergency that you'd have to go to a computer. You put your whole life on a computer, pretty soon you become a computer. I just, that doesn't sit well with me, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree that
But-
we want to be efficient.
Yeah,
And so this is something that I'm happy that you reported that you have started investigating this. But when we get into the details of how we're going to move forward, we should agendize it.
yeah.
But I think that we probably all have some ideas and opinions on that. But I'm glad that you're looking at it.
Yeah, your point's well taken, Mr. Yeah, appreciate it.
Well, I think I believe that it's wise to plan for the future. I mean, I agree with saving money as well. It's kind of made my name in operations, by being really, cost effective, looking for, common solutions, but planning for the future, being efficient yet effective, and helps us become more effective, right, by leveraging systems. Then I think that's something that has to be considered. Sounds like no, decisions are being made now, but I appreciate the legwork because you're going to figure out and present the best solutions available to us.
And when I present to the board, we'll definitely have group, larger scale discussion and hear everyone's viewpoint. And I may even invite one of the companies to do a presentation, just so we get a better understanding, and you're not hearing it from me, you hear it directly from these companies of what they provide and how it will benefit. Or we could sit there and say, well, that's just too much, we don't need that at this time.
And we could also talk about staff training, that we don't always have to go to an outside agency. Maybe this is something that as we learn and grow and change, this might be something that in-house we've spoken before. Once again, it's not on the agenda, but we've spoken about getting additional office help or part-time help, especially when it's busy. Maybe these are the kind of skills that we could look for, somebody that could
Yes.
do that sort of work. Okay.
Okay, so.
Any other comments before we move on to the next report? Okay, so the next report we will hear is from legal counsel. Did I get this right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to hear from Mr. Battles now, and then we're also going to change an item in the agenda.
So when we get to the consent agenda, we'll move that item up. We'll continue down the reports until we get to consent agenda.
Okay, very good. Mr. Battles, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. You still hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. I wanted to report on a recent California Supreme Court decision. It came down on March 29th. The name of the case is David Kanana versus Barrett Business Services, Inc. And this involves the payment of prevailing wages to independent contractors that do work for public agencies. The agency involved here is Los Angeles County Sanitation District number 2, and it operates transfer stations for disposal of waste. It's got a couple of facilities, a couple of warehouses, and it hired workers as independent contractors. These were workers that were employed by Barrett Business Services, and what those workers did was they worked on conveyor belts. They acted as sorters to remove non-recyclable materials, and they would clear obstructions, and then they sort the recycled materials and put them into containers. So that's what they did. And the issue here is whether or not they had to be paid prevailing wages, which is an amount that's set by the Department of Industrial Relations. Now, just by way of background, this issue usually comes up if you're talking about a public works contract, and a public works contract is generally something that involves the construction of a public project, construction type activity. And the definition that normally goes along with that is that something involving construction, alteration, demolition, installation or repair of public facilities. If you're using public funds for that, then that's a public works contract. And one significance of that is if you have a public works contract, you have to go out to competitive bids, like we're doing on a variety of projects. You can't just award it to your favorite contractor. You have to advertise for bids, and you're required to award it to the lowest responsible bidder. And then that responsible bidder is required to pay prevailing wages because it's a public works contract for a public agency, and the labor code requires the payment of prevailing wages in that situation. So that's where the definition of public works comes up, both for bidding purposes and for prevailing wages purposes. But in this particular case, the plaintiff, the class action by the employees, their business services, they actually sued their employer, their business services, rather than the public agency, LA County Sanitation District. They claimed that they were doing public work in sorting recyclable materials and refuse and that kind of thing. And as I started off by saying, it's always been generally understood that a public work involves a public construction project. But here they said they're doing public work if they're doing any work for a public agency. And they pointed to various definitions and language under the labor code. And the labor code does define public works as construction activities, including alteration, demolition, repair, installation of things like carpets, sewer improvements, all kinds of things like that. But there's one definition on the list of 8 definitions that says work done for irrigation, utility, reclamation, and improvement districts or other districts of this type. And the court focused on that and said, yeah, generally public works involves construction, but here we have one item on the list of 8 that says work done for a public agency. And these sorters were doing work for a public agency. And under this particular section, it doesn't have to be construction-related work. Therefore, we find that they're entitled to prevailing wages, which is more than what they were being paid, which is an interesting and somewhat surprising result to me, just because in all my years of practice, I've always focused on public works as a term of art, which the court says it is, that refers only to construction type activities. And so that's been expanded, and it's potentially significant for our district and other public agencies, because at least potentially what it means is if you were to hire someone on a contract basis to do almost anything for the district, certainly sort trash for the district, but if they're doing any kind of work on a contract basis, then arguably it's public work, and they would have to get prevailing wages, which might be significantly higher than you would otherwise be paying them. So that's the outcome of this case, and just something to be aware of. We want to take a closer look at it if the district has an occasion in the future to hire anybody on a contract basis for pretty much any kind of work.
Good to know. I assume it's going to be appealed, right?
This is the Supreme Court.
Oh, okay, so it won't be.
Doesn't have any higher to go. The trial court ruled in favor, or ruled against the employee, that involved construction. The Court of Appeal ruled in favor of the employees, of the workers, but it was a split decision, and then the Supreme Court came along and they settled the issue. So that's the law of the land, unless the legislature does something to change that, which is a possibility, I suppose.
Anything's possible. Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, and then did we want to go to this? Okay, let's go ahead and hear from the Secretary Treasurer and get the report from Ms. Berry.
Well, the big news is our new website's live. It went live Friday. Apparently, when you say to transfer to DNS, it transfers the whole website address, and so it went live. It looks pretty good. We have to add a bunch of information. I have till June 30th to do that with Civic Plus. And then just kind of tweak it to make it look like, you know, what we want it to look like and add pictures and stuff, but, and then we'll be having a finance meeting because of budget time. So we'll get with you guys, we'll have a budget meeting in May. So that's all I have. So if you haven't seen it, go look at it and let me know what you think.
Are you happy with it?
I will be happy with it, yes. Yeah, it's so much easier to use, although, because it got transferred on Friday, I wasn't able to add the agenda. They added the agenda and he said that because the whole DNS thing, it could take up to 72 hours. So I checked today and I was actually able to add the packet.
Great.
So it should be great when I get all the information out.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I think it'll make things a lot easier for people to get news.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, were there any committee meetings?
Personnel committee,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
which we'll discuss
Okay.
later, but you can mention the meeting, because that was you.
Mr. Redfern and I had a meeting and it went well. It was not detailed. We were just setting up some parameters, but we can get to that when we get to the agenda item. Is that the way to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have anything to add, Mr. Redfern?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so now we can move on to the consent items. And that is approval of the regular board meeting minutes of March 17th, approval of the special meeting minutes, March 24th, approval of the Personnel Committee meeting minutes, March 31st, and then the Treasurer's Dashboard March Report, including disbursements from March 12th through April 16th, and the P&L budget performance. So we all got that in our packet. Oh, now I remember the 8 a.m. meeting. I don't see anything that I have a question about or need to change. Does anyone else need more time? If not, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent items.
I'll make the motion to
Motion,
approve it.
okay, and Director Redfern?
I'll second it.
So we have a motion to approve the consent items from Director Deambra and a second from Director Redfern.
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Deambra, a second by Director Redfern to approve the consent agenda as presented. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Deambra?
Aye.
Director Van Pelt?
Aye.
Director Redfern?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. So we will go to action item. And we're going to move on our agenda, number 8, action items. Number C, discussion and possible action regarding formation of ad hoc collective bargaining committee to address renewal of union contract with Teamsters Local 986. So I will turn that over to General Manager Acosta and Mr. Battles to fill us in.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and start with the staff report, present in the staff report, and I'll let Rick speak on this matter as well. So tonight, we're looking to form an ad hoc committee to serve as a bargaining unit on behalf of the CSD when we go to bargain with Teamsters Local 986 union for the current contract with the employees. We did discuss this in length at the personnel committee, and based off of the personnel committee recommendations, they're recommending that the ad hoc committee be formed with the current members that sit on the personnel committee, which are Director Jones and Director Redfern. The board members placed on this committee should be, again, board members Jones and Redfern. And the board will select tonight legal counsel or direct staff to seek legal counsel who will be representing the CSD on behalf of the CSD as well throughout the negotiations. The Personnel Committee did discuss that the primary representatives for the CSD will be Director Jones and Director Redfern. When they meet with this bargaining unit, they will be the two present within the negotiations. They will report, they will make their counters, discuss the proposals from the union, make a presentation to present to the board at the next board meeting, if it's whether it's a special meeting or the next scheduled board meeting. And that is an option for legal counsel to participate at that time. To save the financial aspect of it and the timing of having legal counsel, they recommend that we don't include them within the bargaining portion of the negotiation. If I'm speaking now, please correct me, Director Jones. And Rick, did you have anything you wanted to speak on behalf of this?
I guess I'd make a couple of comments. One reason for having a ad hoc committee handle the collective bargaining rather than, for example, the personnel committee is that the personnel committee is a standing committee. So it can only discuss issues, take action, in this process at a notice meeting, because as a standing committee is treated just like the whole board, which is cumbersome and not really practical for purposes of engaging in negotiations. You can't engage in negotiations at a notice public meeting in every situation. So I think an ad hoc committee is the way to go. It would be an option to not have a committee at all and just have designated representatives, a couple of board members that aren't formally a committee but are instead designated representatives. But I think it works the same way, treat them as to form an ad hoc committee. And then as an ad hoc committee, it isn't subject to the Brown Act because it's formed for a limited purpose for a short duration and then will dissolve after this round of negotiation is completed. And so long as that's done within 6 months, it's sort of a safe harbor, then it's not treated as a standing committee and it's not subject to the Brown Act. It's something for the board to decide is the extent to which you want to involve legal counsel in this process. You could have legal counsel involved without making the legal counsel a designated representative and without making the legal counsel a member of the committee. Instead, it was just legal counsel would serve as a resource. That legal counsel should not be me just because it's not an area where I have the necessary expertise in union negotiations. In the past, you used Nate Kowalski, and so it would be an option to use him if for whatever reason you don't want to use him for this round of negotiations to advise the board and play whatever role legal counsel would play. There are other attorneys that you could use. I've got another one that I've worked with in the past, former partner of mine at my prior law firm. He's done some union work, or you could find one on your own through your own courses.
Just to interrupt briefly, Mr. Battles, and also weigh in when you think you have something you want to say, Director Redfern, but we're open to Nate, but we wanted to hear from the board to see if you wanted to bring in somebody new, somebody local. At what point do we want to involve a labor attorney? Because we will have legal advice through this. But I like what Mr. Battles is telling us as far as our options. We can have legal advisor there, but not be part of the negotiating team per se, but to advise the people negotiating. So I'd like to hear from Director Redfern also, and then get back to you, Mr. Battles, so you'll know what the committee is thinking.
Okay.
My thoughts were that we kept Nate just because Nate's already up to speed with where we're at. We wouldn't be going over material that we've already talked about. But I don't think we need him all the time. And I don't know if we need him even there, if he could be on the phone.
One plus, you've mentioned that plus, a negative is that he's out of the area. Now that can also be a plus because then there's not going to be any conflict. So, if we want to fresh team. We could consider Mr. Battle's recommendation of somebody he's worked with, or we could go with Nate again. But I'd like to hear from the other people on the board and see what they think. I believe that I am the only board member that dates back to the last negotiating period.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Nate did negotiate at the last negotiating. period. I mean, he does have the history.
with the old team.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I could go either way. The only thing is that I think that, you know, he does have the history, but he works for us, not the old team.
Right. And I think, you know, he's a professional. He understands that.
Yeah,
And I think this is a conversation we have also had with Mr. Battles that helped me understand some things
right.
that, you know,
Karen,
yes, go ahead.
how did you were there on with the old team? How did he do? With
Well, I had a different point of view, and it was stated at the meeting that I was the elephant in the room. So I was coming at it from like the rest of the board, and the negotiating team was taking care of the elephant in the room that was me. So I have a little different perspective than, you know, I don't see as like, oh yeah, I worked well with Nate. He was working with the board majority at the time, and we have a different board now. But I believe he's a professional, and I think that he was representing what the majority of the board wanted to do at that time, what the management wanted to do at that time. And so this is a different time. So it's going to be a fresh start in many ways. I'm not opposed to Nate. I think what you said is important. And I'm also grateful that Mr. Battles helped me understand that a couple years ago, that you may feel one thing, but you have to understand that there was a board majority that you were not part of. And I was representing the majority of the board. So I don't know if that helps explain anything, or why I even am open to considering a different labor attorney. Do I think he can do a fine job? Yes, I do. But to your point.
I have a
yes.
question on the negotiation with the union. These are yearly contracts. Is there an advantage maybe if we went to 2 years?
So the last contract was for a 3-year term.
Okay, 3 years.
And so
Okay.
you can set those terms when we start negotiating. That's something that you would. Just
Yes, this is
Okay.
something that will be negotiated. Okay, Mr. Battles, you have it now that you've heard Mr. Redfern and I, and from some of the other people on the board. Does that change anything, or do you have more to add?
No, I don't think I have anything more to add.
So one thing, Rick, that you and I discussed, Rick, was how long would it take to find or seek another counsel if we decide, the board decided not to go with me? And Rick had mentioned it would take up to a week possibly, Rick, or what was your thought again on that?
Yeah, I think it's hard to know. I have, I touched base with my former partner recently about his availability to help with matters like this, and he's indicated he's generally busy, but I know that he's generally available, but I know that he's extremely busy these days. So whether or not he could jump on something right away, I can't say for sure. The other thing about him is he's I have extremely high opinion of him as a labor and employment attorney. He's got just great skills and judgment, and I really enjoyed working with him. But his emphasis is not on public agency. He has been union work and been involved on that side of things. And his firm, my former firm, does have some public agency experience, but it's not what they specialize in the way that Nate's firm does. Nate's firm is focused primarily on public agency law, and they've got something like 20 people in their labor and employment department. So I think that there's greater expertise, a greater depth of experience there, and the rates may actually be more competitive, even though they're from the big cities, Los Angeles, actually Cerritos, because they've got public agency rates which are comparable to mine. I don't public agency at a reduced rate. I'm not sure that well.
Time is money, and to Director Beard's point, that makes Nate a more attractive person, although busy lawyers sometimes don't drag things out. I mean, I've noticed that when I've worked with somebody who has a lot going on, they can be very efficient. But I agree with what you're saying. The only thing I would say, just for the sake of argument, that these specialized firms that deal in labor law that's part of what got us to where we are today. So whatever you think of that, based on the prevailing wage thing you told us earlier. That's just, my opinion, but common sense tells me that Nate would probably be a less risky way to go. But I'm open.
I don't.
What would the savings be? Is there a savings? Normally we compare apples to apples. Do we know what Nate's rate is and what is the rate of anybody else? Are we looking at that to see that we're getting a decent rate?
Well, here's the deal, Director Redfern, that I've noticed a lot of times the rate might be considered a little lower at $3.50 an hour, as opposed to, some attorneys, they can charge $1,000 an hour. Public agencies, a lot of times they do a reduced rate, but they also bill a lot of hours. And sometimes if you get a $600 an hour attorney, boy, they bump and they don't waste any time. And in the end, the bill ends up being pretty comparable. Not always the case, but that's been my personal experience. But yeah, so that hourly wage matters, but efficiency is part of that package.
How many hours to do it is, when you bid, you're gonna have to bid it then. Say, how many hours will you do it in and what's your hourly rate? So we have a feel for what it is. I give you $100 an hour, it'd take me 10 hours. Suppose the guy's like up to $500 an hour, and it'd take me a half an hour.
Right.
So it's actually, you probably had to bid it that way.
Although we didn't bid per se with Nate. Well, I guess we had 3 options, if I remember correctly, 4 years ago when it started. But I don't think we had complaints with Nate's firm. And I think Mr. Battles is correct that that's definitely a less risky way to go.
And we know him, we're comfortable with him.
Yes.
Worked with him before. He is familiar with us, familiar with what we're getting ready to negotiate, and he was in the negotiations before. And I think he can guide you guys,
That in itself saves time.
save time.
Sounds like we're pretty good with him.
Yes.
What about the other side? Is there a different representation on the union side?
Well,
Yes.
they're the Teamsters.
Well, just, yeah.
So they have their negotiations meeting they put together on their side.
Okay.
And this is what they do. They're specialized like Nate is. Yes.
He has experience with us, just wanted experience with the other side. He negotiated
Yes.
the last time. Yeah, but I don't know if you have the same people there on the committee, so yeah, knowing that relationship.
It's the same union, maybe different representation on their side,
Okay.
but it's the same union.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah. Sounds like, do we need a motion, or are we okay to just say that we want to? Okay. So what I'm looking for then would be a motion to contract with Nate Kowalski to represent our district in the negotiations.
I'll make that motion.
So Director Beard has made the motion. Second. Oh, sorry.
So, I can read the recommendation.
Yes.
Recommendation would be formation of ad hoc committee to address negotiations and the renewal of the contract with representative employees of the district, and also contract with Nate Kowalski to represent the CSD as legal counsel during the negotiation process, as deemed necessary.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
So Director Beard has made that motion.
I'll second it.
And seconded by Director D'Ambra.
I didn't hear the first part of that motion. Hopefully I'll be able to hear that when you repeat it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Beard and a second by Director D'Ambra to form an ad hoc committee with Directors Jones and Redford to address negotiations and the renewal of the contract with the represented employees of the district, and to contract with Nate Kowalski as the labor attorney to use as needed for the negotiation process.
Yeah, and I guess I would add to that and have Nate not serve as a member of the committee. And I say that because this agenda item is specifically related to the formation of an ad hoc committee and not retention of legal counsel. So part of this discussion has been, well, last time Nate was on the committee, do we want him, again, he was a designated representative, do we want him to be so designated this time? The decision was, no, we don't, but we're still going to retain him. So I think it's fair to include that second action as part of the action on the ad hoc committee. But if we say at the end of it that Nate will not be a member of the ad hoc committee and will not be a designated representative, then we tie that position into the specific agenda item. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Do you get
Okay,
that?
So you want to add Nate as a designated legal counsel?
Well, you say he'll be added as legal counsel, but not as a member of the committee,
Not as a member of the committee.
because the action really relates to the formation of the committee and who will be on it.
Okay,
Okay, so you could say formation of ad hoc committee made up of directors Redford and Jones. And that's the ad hoc committee who will consult with attorney as needed, however you can word that.
Attorney
Yeah, that's a better way of saying it, I think. You can even specifically identify Nate. And for
to specifically identify or not? Okay. So, okay. So to form an ad hoc committee with Director Jones and Redford to address the negotiations and the renewal of the contract with the represented employees of the district and to consult with the labor attorney as needed.
How's that sound, Mr. Battles?
that sounds okay to me.
Okay, and so that is the motion by
That's
Director
presented.
Beard. Yes, and the
Second.
second by Director
A
Deambra.
roll call vote, Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Deambra.
Aye.
Director Van Hook.
Aye.
Director Redford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're done. Thank you for coming on tonight, and appreciate the feedback. And if we have any questions after the meeting or anything comes up throughout the meeting, I'll address it with you tomorrow morning.
Okay, that sounds great. I hope the rest of your meeting goes well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, good night.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, and thank you. So now we're going to backtrack and go back up to action item 8A.
Yes.
And that is, I will turn it over to Wendy because it's dealing with the resolution on the bank.
Okay, so at the March 17th, 2021, staff brought to the board of directors 3 different opportunities to transfer funds. One was the county banks, one was Montecito Bank Trust, and the other was 5 Star. And the board voted to have staff bring back a resolution to transfer our funds to the 5 Star Bank. And staff looked at the best alternatives to give the highest cost savings, and with 5 Star, we were able to get all our services for free. And that will cost the district no money, so we'll save approximately like $2,000 per year on not having bank fees. So the resolution states that will open up a checking account and transfer the funds to the money market account. Once we get our property tax money, which is due at the end of the month, it'll probably take like a 2-month process to make sure everything clears. So we'll open up the account if you approve the resolution, and we'll transfer the funds once we get all our money, and then we'll keep the Mechanics Bank account open until everything clears, and then we'll close both of those accounts. And that will leave just the safe deposit box at Mechanics Bank.
Thank you, Wendy. I'd like to open it up for public comments and then we'll talk about it. Are there any public comments on this? Mr. Koval?
Cool, yes, the only thing I didn't hear is What is the money market gonna pay?
It fluctuates.
Okay.
It pays on, interest monthly, compounded monthly.
I
Right,
just-
well, let's look, as of the end of March, it was paying, 0.407 monthly.
Fine. Interesting enough, I'm with Union Bank, and Union Bank pays interest on my checking account and also the savings account. And that question to you is, will they be doing the same thing?
Yes. You're not
So
gonna-
I get 2 monthly interest
I
payments.
don't know what the interest rate is, checking, because we don't have it.
Got it. Okay, fine.
And you did talk to Union Bank. What was that, one of the banks?
Not Union, it was, First Bank.
Oh, okay. I knew you had tried to keep it local.
Yeah. I've played around with all of them. Montecito Bank, I have an account there. Union Bank. Union Bank turns out they do the data processing for probably every other bank in this valley that you know about. So they do Montecito, they do First Bank. And so that's why I stood with them, because they seem to have provided everything free. Anything over $100,000, everything is free, including cashier's checks, any other type of transaction. If you want to transfer funds somewhere else, it's free. So there's a lot of advantages to that. So that's been my history of banks.
Well, I don't remember the details. No, that's good to know. Wendy did a lot of research and contacting different banks and weighing the pros and cons, and I can't remember what the situation was with that particular one. But
We did not reach out to Union Bank before I had that.
Correct, because we have a priority.
okay.
They have
And she did do thorough research for the last couple of months. We presented that to the finance committee, to the board at the last month's meeting as well, where we're gonna get our best interest rate, where we're gonna get the best bang for our bucks. That's where the board decided to provide that for us.
Okay. So we've had public comments. Director Beard, you're on the finance committee. You have a comment?
No, I mean, we've reviewed this multiple times, I have multiple times, as being on the finance committee and on the board, when it was presented to the board meeting. I think we should move forward and make a motion that we do that. Now, do we need to include closing the other account, or is that included?
It's included in the resolution.
In the resolution? I make a motion to approve the resolution.
And I didn't see any other public comments, and so I think that that's good. So we have a motion from Director Beard. Do we have a second?
I'll make the second.
Okay,
We have a motion by Director Beard and a second by Director Gamber to approve resolution 21-01, a resolution of the board of directors authorizing opening a 5-star checking account, closure of mechanics bank, checking and money market accounts, and transfers of district funds. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Gamber.
Aye.
Director Van Pelt.
Aye.
Director Redford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
okay. And now we are going to go to 8B and go to our general manager, Jose Acosta, to give us our update on how things are coming on Horizon Drive.
I do want to say that feeling pretty optimistic. We got several good things to report out to the board for this month. Things I'll be discussing are the loan application, the easement procurements, monitoring wells, engineering services, and the bid process where we sit right now with this project. So we'll start with the loan application. Last week I received an email from the state regarding another requirement that they're asking us to complete to get the loans approved through them. And that's to complete a historic properties identification report. I haven't gone out and gotten quotes for this, and how much it would cost, because the direction we've received from the board is we're probably not gonna take this loan, and we're gonna go through CSDA. And based on the track that we're on, the timing track, CSDA is our best option, because we want to start this project very soon, and we'll be able to get that money pretty soon, as we go out and get that quote back from CSDA.
Are you saying they're asking us to hire an archaeologist?
That is exactly what I am saying at this time. They are asking for-
Thank you.
For the long process.
Indiana Jones.
So,
I'm not even gonna joke about this.
yeah.
Oh,
Inclusive of the loan process, staff will reach out to CSDA upon the long-term sheet, request the long-term sheet and present to the board for approval at your May 19th board meeting. So we're gonna wait probably to the beginning of May, so that way we can get an up-to-date loan documents from them. Now, we don't know which way the loans, the interest rates are going based off of last month. From what I understand, interest rates are climbing very slowly right now, back up, so maybe a little more than the 3% that we received last, but it's still gonna be at a low rate compared to what we received last August. So we're gonna request that from them and get that to the board for approval on the May 19th board meeting. On the easements, I want to report out that the easements, all 3 easements have been signed by the homeowners and are ready for approval on the district end. The district has yet to sign the part or Larson agreements because we haven't reached the point of taking these 2 deed. So to wait for that process to take effect. And we also included in there that funds would be dispersed once the district approves the winning bid for the project. So that's what we're waiting for, is for the board to approve a bid and receive all bids to move the project forward.
may I, could you elaborate a little bit on the signing by the 3 occupancies?
Yes, I want to thank Hammer, Jewel and Associates. Jennifer did a very good job staying track, staying course, having the interaction with these residents, but still maintaining her composure and reaching out to them. I also want to thank Mr. Collison. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's an
Jack
attorney.
Collison.
He's an
Yep.
attorney in the valley. He's the attorney that Ms. Larson reached out to. He was instrumental in ensuring that she understood what she was signing, why she was signing it, and making a point that this is a public interest project that really needs to move forward. So he was instrumental in that as well. We continue our obligation on answering questions from the Hart and from Larson and from Ms. Lee as well, to ensure that those were answered. We did our compromises on how we would adjust the project to make sure we met their goals, met their requirements and their requests as well. And those are included in the bid documents. One example was starting the project, no work to start on these easements prior to 8 a.m. So that gives them an opportunity, so we're not on their property at that time. The other one is to make sure that we have constant communication throughout the project from a district representative. So that would probably be myself or Craig or even Wendy at times, making sure we're out there discussing, checking in with Mrs. Larson, checking in with Mrs. Hart, checking in with Ms. Lee, making sure that they're not having any issues with the contractors at that.
Lee is Senator Code.
Yes.
I'd like to thank you and Wendy for doing the logistics on this and calming them down. And so I'm just saying thank you, because this was on the verge, it could have gone either way. So
Yes.
congratulations and thank you.
Yes.
I will say it was a huge burden lifted off our shoulders.
Yeah.
We got the information and the notes that we were gonna be closing these, Wayne and I kind of virtually high five, because we don't high five nowadays. Virtual high five, but we're happy and we're excited to report that back to the board.
And it's how we wanted it to go.
Exactly.
Yes,
You know,
that's,
we negotiated, we listened to their concerns and we made those adjustments. We did it like we should have, as the neighbors and stewards of the balance.
good job. Thank you.
You're welcome. Monitoring wells, both wells are down now, all levels in each well are dry, so we don't have any standing water at this time at these locations at the level of 25 feet below ground level. You have to say that we get below that if we did, but there wouldn't be any standing water, but at this time, there's no standing water in either of those monitors. We are anticipating a small bit of rainfall this Sunday and Monday. Hopefully it's not a substantial amount that would affect the groundwater. Engineering services, the bid documents were released March 17th. They were publicized in the local newspapers, posted on our website. We received minimal inquiries regarding the bid process from outside agencies. That I didn't think we were going to have too many people bidding on the project, but we did conduct our moving on to the Oh, that one's for engineering services, sorry. With the engineering services, staff is also mentioned to the board that we will need construction management services for this project. So staff did reach out to five engineering firms to request quotes for construction management services. Two of the firms responded they cannot provide the services at this time because their workloads are pretty high and that they can't take on this project at this time. One did not reply, and two have provided quotes. But the quotes were at a level that I still want to try to get a better price, so I sent this out again to three other firms, trying to get a better price from three other firms. Only one of those firms responded. So out of a total of 8 firms that I reached out to, we got 3 responses. In the process of reviewing these thoroughly and looking at the language and seeing if these are complete and accurate services that we'll receive. I will say the price tag right now is between $50,000 and $60,000 to perform these construction management services throughout the project.
And what is Canon?
I don't want to mention what each one is mentioned at this time, because it could give a competitive edge to another bidder who could still be put together.
But Canon is still in consideration, which
Yes,
would be
and
using
it's one of the
in-house.
ones who have provided.
Okay.
The bid process, a mandatory pre-bid meeting was conducted on Tuesday, April 13th. We started here at the district office where we had a sign-in sheet and we had all representatives here. We answered all the administrative questions. There were approximately 8 companies present. So that is a good amount of companies that have interest in this project. Not to say all 8 will bid on it, but that's a good starting point to have 8 companies present at the pre-bid walkthrough. We moved out to in the field on-site visits. Right now we're currently allowed to go onto the lead property based off of where we were with that easement procurement and signing the agreement. So we were able to park on her property, view the Hart property from that property, and then move on over to Horizon, view down the Larson property. We answered several questions and concerns that the companies had. One of the biggest concerns is the depths that they may have to go down. And based off of the easement, we have a 15-foot easement. If we're going down 15 to 16 feet on some of these properties, that could prove challenging, but that just requires more shouldering for them, which is an added cost for them. So it can be done, just proves to be a little more challenging for them. So, I haven't received any follow-up questions yet, so we have no addendas for the bid paperwork. We're looking to receive all bids by the first week of May and have those reviewed. And reviewed by staff, reviewed by Canon Engineering, and bring those to the board for approval at the May 19th board meeting for review, discussion, and possible approval. We don't know what the price tag is going to be. Again, the estimated engineering's cost was about $623,000 for the project. That was the estimated cost, not inclusive of all the work that was completed prior to the project. Engineering services provided, the easement services provided, and construction management. That is not inclusive of that. So that's why the price tag still remains around $800,000 anticipated.
And you will bring us the information at the next meeting, and you will have a recommendation. We will be able to look at the bids, ask questions, but will you as general manager have a recommendation?
Yes, I will. So and typically, as Rick has mentioned, with all public works contracts, you usually go with the lowest, most responsive bidder. So sometimes the lowest bidder is the most responsive, so sometimes you go with the next bidder, but they have to be the most responsive as well. That's why it states lowest and most responsive.
That's your fail-safe.
Yes, sir. Because people will say, well, I'm gonna go with the lowest bidder, but they don't have necessarily everything that you're looking for in their contract.
So is it fair to say you're pretty comfortable with the progress as the GM here, what's going on, the logistics that are coming in? Because this is kind of getting into the meat and potatoes. You're pretty comfortable, are you?
Yes, I'm very excited and optimistic for the district, for the residents of Horizon Drive, and for the board itself, because we made this a priority when I got here, and feel we're progressing on track. And as a team, I think we've done a great job. And I'm hoping that the price tag comes in within a reasonable range, and we can proceed with this prior to the summer and get going on this.
Yeah, we need to get going because, you're reading about the $100 sheet plywood and things are not getting less expensive.
Yeah, I have to buy that $100.
I thought of you. I thought of you.
50,000. 3 bids came in at $250,000.
Well, you know where the real problem could lie? They're talking billions in infrastructure. that you're not gonna be able to find an engineering firm or a contractor to do a job like this if we don't get in under the,
Right. Yes.
that could be a real problem.
I agree.
I put it out to 12 and got 3 bids left
Oh,
back. So that's how busy contractors are right now.
yes. A lot of engineering firms, as I say, they beat them, got 3 back, and most of them said they're just too busy to take on.
I bid it from Ventura all the way up to here. I called because the first bid I got, I was like, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
And I can't even get people to come from Ventura or
You know,
to
typically,
go to Montecito.
contractors have a history of not responding when they're busy. I get it all, and I have a policy, I don't deal with them ever again. All it would take is a phone call, hey, I'm really busy, I'd like to help you, but I can't, or a letter. And that's just professional courtesy, but that's always been a weakness of contractors. I personally, I know everybody's gone through that. People call me and say, gee, thank you for returning my call. You're like the 10th guy called.
Yes.
And I'm, well, thank you for calling me 10th,
I am just really happy that we have progressed to the point we have, because this is a tough job and it has a very long history. And that's why I just want to keep moving and not let anything
Up stride.
Yes.
Yeah, we're in stride there. And again, you two guys
But
really
a
took
good
the lead
show,
on this.
Yes, it was a good showing, 8.
If
There
you
might
get-
have been 9 or 10, 2 walked in late. I wasn't sure if they were the original firms that were here or not, but there was quite a bit of people.
Well, hey, if you get 4 bids, I'd be happy.
We're sitting pretty if we can get 4 bids. If I have any questions from the public or the board,
I do not see anyone wanting to comment publicly. Director Redfern, I think you've done a good job explaining where we're at. And I don't think we need to take an action, do we?
no,
Very good. Okay, then I think that we can move on to 8D, discussion and possible.
Gary has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see Gary.
He's
I
muted.
still don't see you. Jay, can you put Gary on? Maybe Jay isn't. Oh, here, let me see. I do need help. Here participants. I'm on my phone. Here we go. Gary, you're not muted, so you can go ahead.
I'm just saying goodbye.
Oh, well, okay, Gary, before you say goodbye, did that answer all your questions? And do you have any questions about progress or anything?
No, I'm really glad that you got the easements.
Well, very good. And thank you for staying with us on this.
Okay. Talk to you
Okay,
later.
bye-bye. Okay, so now we can move on. Discussion and possible action regarding a board member for representation at the SYCSD meetings. And action will be required. So we're going to go ahead and receive staff report. And is that going to be from Wendy or? Yes, okay. Yeah.
But I'll start. So the Santa Barbara CSDA is the local chapter of the California Special Districts Association. And that's the local area people that belong to CSDA. They have formed this local chapter. And they hold meetings, they used to hold meetings on a monthly basis and switch between Goleta and Buellton. However, since COVID, they have gone to quarterly meetings and meeting by Zoom. In the past, we had the general manager, myself, and usually the board president attend those meetings. The new stated board policy states that in December, the regular meeting in December, a member of the board shall be selected to represent the district in accordance with the SBCSDA's constitution bylaws, and another member of a board or staff member at the same time to be selected to serve as alternate for the representation. However, we didn't do that at the December meeting. And it is a great way to connect with the other districts, learn what the other districts are doing, meet their board members, a great opportunity for networking. Every quarterly meeting now they have a speaker, and you can usually, they're usually really good speakers. In the past, when we met in person, there would be a dinner with the speaker, and the district would pay for the dinner and for the board member to attend the meeting. So if you guys are interested, you can designate a representative and or an alternate. And then I'll pass it on to Jose, because he can state what Rick talked to him about.
Okay, and I also have a couple of questions and comments.
I also want to point out this is an opportunity for whoever represented in CSD to get out there and brag a bit about what we're doing at the CSD, what's new here, how we're serving our constituents, and progress that the board is making and staff within our district as well. So it does serve as an opportunity for that as well. Speaking to legal counsel on this matter, he reviewed the agenda, reviewed the reports. What I try to do is get his feedback via email on some of these reports, so he doesn't have to attend and stay longer at the meetings. And one comment he made was based off of the fair political practices requirements, the board member must recuse him or herself when he or she has a financial interest in a decision. If a board member may receive $500 or more within a 12-month period for serving as a district representative on the SYCSD, the board member must, 1, publicly identify the financial interest that gives rise to conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest in detail sufficient to be understood by the public. In this case, the board member who is that will request that is being nominated or selected would have to state that there's a possibility that they can receive up to $600 a year within, $600 within a 12-month calendar period based off of a $50 per month stipend that they would receive from the CSD. Number 2, they would have to recuse himself or herself from discussing and voting on the matter. So once the staff report is completed, we got some board input, not discussion, but just input from the board, and we make a nomination. That person must remove himself from the conversation.
Okay, go ahead, because before we get to that, there's a couple of points to make.
Yes. And number 3, they must leave the room until after discussion, vote, and any other disposition of the matter is concluded.
I understand that. I think that legal counsel does a very thorough job, and I think my take, I'm not a lawyer, but as long as we disclose, and this is what the director comments at the beginning of the meeting, oh, and I went to the CSDA meeting, got paid $50, got my dinner, and this is what the meeting was about, thank you, and that covers it. And so this isn't like, it's so spooky when you're fair political. Have you try and call them and complain sometime? Anyway, I'm just saying that we know how to do it. We know what the spirit of the law is. So if we're going to make this an election thing, but I had some questions because historically we have not been elected. Historically, I know the meetings have changed, but every month at the end, the previous manager would invite any of us who wanted to go, let me know, and we'll buy your dinner. So this is much different than how it was a year ago. A lot of things are. But my concern is, I think it's a great opportunity. I agree with everything that's been said, but to make it too official or to say that, oh, there's going to be an interesting thing and Director Beard, it relates to finance. I think that it shouldn't be. We should designate someone and an alternate. Maybe it doesn't have to be an election because this is representing. This is just, it's a networking opportunity. So, I understand erring on the side of caution, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind designating someone, designating an alternate, but I don't see why it's like, oh, they're talking about that. Well, that would be great. I don't know why it has to be such a formal thing. It's a quarterly club meeting.
So if I'm understanding and the way I read it is, if we want to select someone to be the representative and then select any board member to serve as the alternate, then we could do that as well. So I'll present an example is if we nominated Director Beard or selected Director Beard to be the representative at the SYCSD monthly board meetings, and any other board member who was available to serve as an alternate, that could be an option as well. Or I'm not sure if we could just say any board member could serve as the representative and any board member could serve as the alternate.
Although that did happen for the first 4 years I was here. So
Correct.
bring the handcuffs.
Would that be That might be a good way to do it, because we would all be getting educated. We would all take turns. Is that acceptable?
So that's what I guess what I'm getting at is, say we did nominate one representative, just so you have that on file, and said the rest of the board will serve as an alternative. The Director Beard knows that this month's subject topic would be something that Mr. D'Ambro would benefit from. He may have a meeting out of town that month and may not be able to attend, so Director D'Ambro could attend.
Or just randomly, boom, boom, boom with the board, so we're all informed.
And a little bit like it used to be, that if we designate one person or one person would like, and I have some ideas there, that second person going, and only because we don't want to get deep in the weeds about Brown Act stuff, which also I think gets a little silly here. But if we designate someone and then do like we used to do at the end of the manager's report, oh, and the CSDA meeting is going to be on the 29th, and this is our rep, but who's interested in going? Oh, no one. Or if a second person wants to go, there's no reason why both can't go.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind designating one person and then allowing a second person. I don't think that's a big deal, and it never was a thing like we were breaking the bank. I don't think I got paid for going the one time I went. And interestingly, I went at the very last monthly meeting, and it was pretty crazy because it was the Monday before the election, and they had the county emergency person speaking, and they outlined this lockdown plan for COVID. And everybody was kind of like, oh, yeah. I mean, nobody thought it was happening. And 2 weeks later, we were all on lockdown. It was really interesting, and especially to be coming to the end of a political season and not one question, not one news story on this big topic that all these different special districts were getting this plan that was implemented rather suddenly, and surprisingly, that information was out there, that plan was there, and the CSD people were apprised of it. But I think, nobody really knew that was like, well, we hope we don't have to do this, but just in case. So they can be very interesting and very informative. But anyway, we're approaching this once again. I'm not saying we should do it the old way, but we don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Do we have to elect someone? This is, we can ask, is there somebody? I know that my personal thing is I would like our new board member to do it, but we're all new to varying degrees. So
So if we want to make a selection, then we just ask them to.
Well, I can say, Wendy and I spoke about it, maybe Jose a little bit, because I was looking for more just general education for myself, that I was trying to instill in, trying to find ways to not become more influential per se, but just to understand the processes better. So that, I don't want to elect myself for it.
But that might fall into what
Well,
you're
it fell into what I was already
Yeah.
asking for
Sure.
us to, and just kind of see what's happening, being from Santa Barbara, kind of see, what, the CSDs are doing over there. And yeah, we could then tout and learn, from them. And so I'll throw my hat in the ring if the board wants to consider me, but I definitely don't want to exclude any other director from wanting to do it.
I would love to do it. I am overcommitted right now on 4 other boards. And I'm trying to get off of them.
Yeah, I got a problem with the archaeology thing. I still can't.
But I would like to attend a few of the meetings.
Yeah.
I can't commit to saying, oh, I can go to all of them, but I would like to attend a few.
well, that's why I liked my suggestion. I always like my suggestions. I'm very big on my suggestions, but I like the idea of having somebody designated. And Director Redfern, how do you feel? Would you be interested in attending
I
these?
would be interested in attending some of the meetings. I don't want to attend all of them.
Well, it sounds like we have some consensus there that 4 of us would like to attend occasionally, but not always. Director Van Pelt may not always be available. And I don't think we have to, I think there's consensus. I don't think we have to have an election. You have explained that there's going to be compensation, and he will disclose that whenever he reports back, or if any of us do.
I would say just to follow the letter of the law, so we still have Mr. Van Pelt step out.
Yeah.
But before you leave, you have to say, you have to recuse yourself because you have a financial interest.
I will recuse myself because I have a financial interest.
And that financial interest would be the $600 possibly. Yes.
Possible compensation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go have a smoke.
Yeah.
Hello, can we just-
Yes.
We'll come grab you.
All right.
And I understand we should follow our lawyer's advice, but part of why I first got involved in boards is because of the silliness that, that just like all of it, it just gets so ridiculous. It's kind of like the archaeologist stuff. It's like, these people spend 40 hours a week thinking up new rules for people. I mean,
Yes, they
come
do.
on, let's just, so,
Okay, so
If we can approve a representative and another member of the board, staff member to serve as an alternate for representation, so if we can select a representative from the board.
well, we already have nominated Director Van Pelt, but I would like to amend that a little bit, and that the alternate can be any of the four of us, because the odds of any one of the four of us, like a at-large alternate of the other four board members.
And that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, not designate
And what I want to point out is, this was brought up in a discussion. Mr. Van Pelt had a lot of questions when he first came on board for Wendy, and one of them was, how can I become more involved? This was a recommendation, so we brought it to the board. After reviewing the amended and restated board policy manual, this is what we read and interpreted. This is why we brought it forward in this manner. The board can make an adjustment. So that's what we're doing tonight.
Yes, and we can, but just to point out, as I point out to Wendy and Jose, because I also spoke with you and I also spoke briefly with Director Van Pelt about doing the Sacramento thing and how maybe this would be better. But this is an example where we spend a lot of money updating our policy manual, and a lot of it ends up not really being all that useful, but we learn. So, okay, so what we've got is, to repeat,
We're gonna approve Director Van Pelt to serve as a representative for the CSDA Santa Barbara County chapter, and any board member will serve in the capacity as an alternate as available.
I would like to, not even an alternate. If I want to go and he's going, there's no problem there.
As
Now-
long as it's not 3.
Yes, and there really isn't a problem if all five of us go, because it's educational and we're not colluding, but just because of all this, these people that spend 40 hours a week planning our lives together don't want us to be together for 3 hours a month and maybe accidentally. So, I mean, I get how it's being interpreted, but I don't see a problem with two of us going. And I know that in the last or the first 4 years I served, that was never an issue. We were all invited to go. It's an association meeting.
If 3 of you go, we just have to post it that 3 board members will be attending the Santa Barbara chapter CSD.
Yes, and that probably won't happen very often, but if it does, we're covered. We're not doing anything wrong. We're just trying to meet and learn.
So that's the motion.
Yes.
Or who's get a motion to approve that recommendation?
I make a motion as presented.
That's second.
So do we have a second?
I second.
Director Redfern?
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Beard and a second by Director Redfern to appoint Director Van Pelt as the designated representative to attend this Santa Barbara CSDA's local chapter meetings, and to appoint any board member as the alternate.
And just to clarify, the conflict was he could earn up to 600 from 4 meetings.
No, throughout the year, if they start meeting monthly.
Oh, but they're not. So really, it's like even a stretch to say it's possibly a conflict. Okay, just wanted to clarify, because we spend a lot of money on legal advice here.
Do a roll call vote. Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director D'Ambra.
Aye.
Director Redfern.
I,
Okay.
Yeah. But keep your sad face on, telling bad news.
I must be having an influence on you.
You're a very bad influence. Well, I talked. Yay. Okay, so that item is resolved and we can move on.
Do we-
Oh, we should tell you, sorry, you're it. And what we decided was you're our designated person, but the other 4 members, if it's a topic they want, 2 of us, you can go and somebody else can go, or if you're not going, then one of us can So we kept it pretty loose while following the rules.
Will you go, see if you have a menu you can bring back that they're gonna serve for dinner after meetings?
He wants pizza.
Prime rib.
Not when I went.
Monday, actually. So Monday
Oh.
is the next quarterly one, at 5 o'clock. And I don't remember,
Monday,
so,
good enough.
so it's all by Zoom. So if you guys want to attend by Zoom,
It's Zoom, but they're not doing it in person, right?
right, no in person until.
Yeah, okay.
The in-person is much
If you
nicer.
attend by Zoom, I need to know, so you need to email me so I can pay you.
Yeah, I'll let you know. So do I get a DoorDash? Do they DoorDash me?
Yeah. No, unfortunately,
That's good, that's good.
yes.
It's gonna be cool. It's really nice because you learn all the different special districts. You've got everything from cemetery to water
I'm gonna
to.
send that information out to all of us.
Again,
Okay.
if you would all like.
Yeah, that would be great.
I heard these needs.
Bye.
Fine. I'm gonna put in the proper date, double check.
Okay, and then we, on action item 8E, we have a discussion and possible action of board member payments for training. So E, and is that going to be,
That'd be myself.
okay, Mr. Acosta?
So the district amended and restated board policy allows the board members to be compensated for attendance at approved meetings and trainings. Section 20, I'm gonna quote the personnel or the policy, so bear with me, please. Section 20, board compensation, travel expenses, training addresses, and the approved meetings and trainings which qualify for compensation and reimbursement. Subsection purpose, it is recognized that the district's directors are required. No compensation or expenses for meetings or services shall be paid without the express authorization of the board, except as provided below. The board may deviate limitations, all expenses that do not fall within the travel reimbursement policies of this section shall be approved by the board in public meeting before the expense is incurred. These pages have been included in the staff report for review. I hope everyone's had an opportunity to review them. If there's any questions on that. The section does not specify which meetings, committees, and trainings are reimbursable without specific board approval. Sorry, the section does specify which meetings, committees, and trainings are reimbursable without board approval. As the board governance training on March 24th and 25th is not specified in this section, the board can authorize compensation for each board member in attendance at that training. Well, the total amount of compensation would be up to $500, which would be a $50 per day per board member in attendance, which would be $250 per day for a total of $500. So again, as this is not specified in that section, it must come to the board for the board to disclose that payment will be incurred by the district and that we are approving this payment as a board, to the board.
Okay, because that's really complicated and I don't know how much time it took or what triggered this, but I think it's a pretty simple fix, right?
It's just
Yeah.
a matter of stating that this is what we're gonna pay the board for attending that training.
Okay, and do we need a motion? So
Yes.
I'm seeking a motion to approve board payment for attendance at board governance training on March 24th and 25th. Do I have a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion from Director Van Pelt. Do I have a second?
I'll make the second.
So we have a motion from Director Van Pelt, a second from Director Deambra.
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Van Pelt, a second by Director Deambra to authorize payment for attending the board governance conference on March 24th and 25th. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Deambra.
Aye.
Director Van Pelt.
Aye.
Director Redfern.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'm just gonna send an invoice from my hourly rate.
I don't think we can afford you, David. We think alike.
Like I do this for the month.
I don't even want to meet the person that does it for the money. That's-
I tried to explain my work, I've been busy for 2 days, and they want some details. I said, I'm doing some board training. I mean, well, how is that related to what we need to do for us? I said, well, we'll learn a lot, I'll bring it back. I'll bring charge. Yeah, make sure you're not- okay, so.
We're saving them money.
Yeah, that's what it is. I did have some nuggets, that I actually did appreciate, some of the comments that were made. interactions I had. And so, yeah, I definitely pass that on to some of my members of my job. I was informed, so I actually appreciate the training. Thank you, Karen.
Well, I think that there is a benefit to all of us in that way, that I think we learn from the things we do outside of here and bring it here and vice versa. So it's a big plus. It's a plus for the district. So now we're down to the last thing. Now, the treasurer's report, I have a question. When we do the informational items, is there a reason that this is coming at the end? I'm not asking in a critical way, but I'm just curious that when we did our informational items when we front loaded the reports, this one's coming at the end as an informational item. Is
Yeah,
there?
just gonna be in good way.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
No, it's just, I welcome feedback, and we'll have to try it for 2 or 3 meetings, but I do like the informational stuff on the front end so
I
far.
was gonna comment that it just gives you a little more background of what you're gonna get into and in the book here. Yeah, I think it's advantageous to us.
But that said, hit us with your informational items from the,
so we
quarterly.
have, so at the end of March, the third quarter of the fiscal year, we had $90,445 in the mechanics checking. We had free $151,771 in the money market. LIF had $162,289. 5-Star had $3,842,411. We still have $1.82 left in the CD account in case we want to open up another CD. We don't have to go through all the paperwork again. And the LIF interest rate was 0.41%, and the 5-Star interest rate was 0.407%, and that's compounded monthly, and LIF is compounded quarterly. And we had, at the end of March, we had a total of $4,375,918 in the bank.
very good. And then you say that the property tax money comes at the end of this month.
Yes, and we should get 600,000 plus.
Just based on my memory, it sounds like we are continuing to be in a better position.
Look at
7B.
7B.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, you're looking at 8 or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
17.
I see.
Yeah, I had to change the
Ah.
numbers around because we changed the.
Yeah,
I see.
okay, all right.
Very good.
And how much interest were we earning off of that dollar and something?
Nothing, it actually went down. I received a statement Monday, and it went down to $1.65.
Okay.
Don't want to get negative there. Any other questions or comments regarding our treasurer report? I see none. I don't see any public comments. So I would ask at this time for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Oh, we have a motion by Director Beard, a second by Director Van Pelt, a third by Director Redfern, and I think Deambra wants to make a fourth.
At 7:14.
7:14. No, not bad. We got a lot done. Very good. Thank you, everyone. Oh, I thought we all second, third, and fourth. Okay. Yes.
And I'm not sure if this is even a conversation we can have now, but about the union contract.
No.
So we'll talk exactly.
We'll do a closed session at the special board meeting, or we'll set up a special.
Okay, I would just like to, understand a little bit what happened prior.
No.
The process and what led it to, so it's better informed going forward.
Yes, so we'll talk about it in closed session. Okay. Very good.
So we'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Deambra?
Oh, you love this place.
You.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Director Redfern?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Yay. Thank you all very much.
Night,
Nice
everyone.
seeing you. Good night, Frank.
Good night.
We did it. Oh, and I didn't even check my battery. You know, my battery was almost dead.